So I was asked today by Adriana to talk about science at Greenacres, and I'm a fifth, sixth grade science teacher at Greenacres, and the way that we learn science at Greenacres is essentially through project-based learning, where children will develop ideas through working on a problem that they need to solve in a project. Or we support them with small activities for getting the basic concepts that they might use in those projects. Now, recently the sixth grade have been working on body systems, and of course one of the integral parts of the body is the circulatory system. And I, as a biochemist in my former profession, spent a lot of time learning biology in school, and much of my learning was through rote memorization. So when I learned about how the heart works in the body, I sat with the textbook and learned the passage of the blood through the body. Now, this is not something that we advocate here at Greenacres. And so just as an introduction for how the heart works in our classrooms, I handed them a lump of clay. So it's Play-Doh. We made the Play-Doh, and this is approximately the size of a child's heart. It would sit in their hand, and I had them think about what they already knew about the heart. And so they know that it's a muscle and that it squeezes blood out of it to pump the blood around the body. And they know that we have arteries and veins that essentially are tubes, so we use straws to represent the tubes. And I asked them to come up with a model of how they think the heart might pump the blood around the body. So they all know that it squeezes blood around the body, and so this is one of the first designs that they all come up with. You know, well, the blood has to go all around the body, so it must have lots of tubes coming out of the heart. And we look at this, and I say to them, well, can you imagine if this is just squeezing? What this kind of puncturing of a muscle might do to the power that the muscle can generate. And so they think about it for a while, and they say, well, yeah, maybe you're right. And so, well, we know that one tube has to come out and start going off to the top of the body, and one has to come out to go down to the bottom of the body. And we know, well, there must be one going just to the brain, because that's really important. And we know that the heart has to get blood from the lungs to pick up the oxygen. And so there must be one coming from the lungs. And so we're starting to get this general idea. And so we've got fewer tubes coming out, and they'll tell me the tubes then separate out, and so they can spread out around the body. So we get down to fewer tubes, so we're already in better shape. So we're good, we're doing well here. And then somebody says, well, we have the blood coming from the body, and it comes into the heart. And we know it doesn't pick up the oxygen in the heart, it does it from the lungs. And so this tube that's coming out from the lungs is here. And we guess maybe it just pumps up into the lungs and it goes around the body. And then I tell them, well, we have to maintain pressure because blood has to go a long way around the body. And so I say, well, you know, if it just goes off through the lungs, it can't generate enough pressure, this one pump. And generally somebody will come up with the idea, well, it has to come back then. So we have this tube coming back from the lungs. And then this blood is coming from the body, so there must be another tube coming out to take the blood to the body. And so we get this kind of idea. And then some bright spark will always say, but if it's all coming into the middle here, it's all just swooshing around in there, and then how does it know where to get out? And we come up with the idea that there must be compartments inside somehow. There must be little structures inside that keep these things separate. And essentially then they have come up with this design. Sometimes they will say, well, it must be two. You know, there must be two pumps. One is pumping it up to the lungs and then taking it back out. And then I ask, are there two hearts? And they say, well, no. And so then they do come up with this idea that the heart is a double pump, and it separates the oxygenated blood that's coming from the lungs and then going straight back out to the body from the deoxygenated blood that's coming from the body, and is separated by the compartments in the middle. And essentially, this is 12-year-olds working out the same thing that Harvey worked out. And they've worked out for themselves how the heart works. And that's science at Greenacres.